Thank you for that question. And I think that's one of the questions that have been very forwardly put up in a lot of organizations. Security is always considered as a blocker for releases. Although the whole idea of having a security team built in your organization is to make them enablers and not blockers. So that is the ideal mindset that any security team should have. Now, coming to your question, the DevSecOps is an entire process or an effort to have security by default. And this can easily be done in three basic steps. First is that you integrate security via tools. The next is to create security as code culture. Okay, that's the most important step. And then is the promotion of cross skilling, because the devs are empowered to make releases very quickly, right? But in case of DevOps, the whole ideology that it comes with is to have multiple releases in a day or a week, right? Now, very optimistically, the conventional security approaches that we have are basically the approaches which is, for example, a pen test at the end of the release cycle. Now, that is not going to help with DevOps and the multiple releases that we have, right? So the security does not have to be like a last step of the DevOps pipeline. It has to be the integrated in the pipeline itself, right? This also helps you to reduce the cost of security. Now, coming to the first part of your question, to enable them to have multiple releases and not making security a blocker, and what approaches can be used here. So the first and the very, the one approach that is not that much discussed in a lot of forums and not followed in a lot of organizations is called threat modeling. Okay, until we have the right approach from the very beginning. I mean, you can have IDE plugins that ensure that the developer is not adding any insecure code, but a threat model has to be done. Now, threat modeling is to ensure that you actively look at all the potential in-app risks. And the output is very simple. It's the network diagram, it's the architecture diagrams, it's the security requirements, and the list of threats and vulnerabilities. So it's more of a proactive approach of finding bugs even before an idea has even started to be in the part of the code. And absolutely, I think like one of the co-panelists also mentioned, once you commit a secret into GitHub or a code repo, then it stays there. Even if until you change that secret, it's still going to live there because it's a version control system. So a pre-commit check is definitely required to scan for secrets to ensure there are no hard-coded passwords, no unencrypted secret data, no secrets in the source and in the code history. So all those things can be used here. And coming to the next phases, to the vulnerability scanning, a proper SAST, DAST, and tools have to be implemented. But never to forget about the software composite analysis or the SCA. It's not regularly put up as important as to SAST and DAST. But as per my understanding, SCA can help you to control a lot of supply chain attacks. Your developers generally use a lot of open source libraries. Even the container images, the Docker images that they build on, are generally from the open Docker repository, which might have a lot of security issues. So if you have the right SCA done, then it also helps you. And for SAST and DAST, once it's done, then the next step is to have because most of the organizations are on containers now, right? So we need to have a right container security and container vulnerability scanning before you deploy it to prod. And that has to happen to ensure there are no outdated libraries, there are no insecure containers, right? There are no misconfigurations in them. And at the same time, this entire pipeline, so this was about the security in the pipeline. The entire pipeline itself has to be a code itself, because we are also talking about security of the pipeline. So that entire approach ensures that you have an end-to-end security in the pipeline, and all the deployments are very stable, and they're actually very secure at the same time. So that's one of the approaches that a person can take to implement a step-by-step DevSecOps approach.